Okay, let me get the mouse out of the way. Hello everybody, my name is Josh Hammond. Welcome to my presentation on the tort reform in the healthcare industry. First off, let's start out. What is a tort? The definition is a civil, not criminal wrong committed against a person or property, excluding a breach of contract. And there are two categories of this. There's your intentional torts and your unintentional torts. The unintentional ones are going to be your most common type in the healthcare industry. Intentional tort is when a person intentionally harms another person. What they do is it has intent. Some examples of this are assault, battery, false imprisonment, fraud, deceit, trespassing, etc. Now, currently the law allows the injured person or party to seek remedy in a civil suit. And these people, the benefits is they can be financially compensated is the big one. And then there are also awards for conduct that is judged as malicious. Depending on what happened or the degree or extent, they may be prosecuted as criminal acts in separate court actions. Unintentional torts, kind of the opposite of intentional. These ones are not intended to cause harm. An unintentional tort is alleged when one may have performed or failed to perform an act that a reasonable person would or would not have done in similar circumstances. This is the most common type, and it is more known as negligence. And like I said earlier, these ones are not intended to cause harm. Is it necessary? In my opinion, it is. As a society, we are becoming more and more litigious, and the number of healthcare-related torts and size of award have had a massive effect on the cost of medicine and healthcare today. The three most common places or areas that this happens in is going to be your OBGYN, plastic surgery, and also general surgery. What do tort laws cover? I'm not going to go over every single one, but here's a picture of what you can expect on what they would cover. And so if you want to look over that, you can pause the video, but that's a good picture of what a tort law would cover. Tort reform in Texas. So 2000 to 2003, they had a big the way that it was set up, there was just a lot that was going on, and it was getting pretty messy. And one of the greatest causes of the rise in the cost of medical malpractice insurance is the combined effect of the trend toward more litigation and the trend toward higher awards to patients who have been injured or compromised by healthcare providers. Texas, since then, has passed strong tort reforms to help cope with the problems that they were having. Here is what was going on. So 1 out of every 4 doctors in Texas had a malpractice claim filed against him or her. Most of the cases failed, but it still costs more than $50,000 to defend. About 85% of the cases at the time failed, but it's still costing a massive amount of money. Many, because of that, obviously, think if you were a doctor, you would be scared to practice there. And that's what many of them did. They either retired, they limited their practice techniques, or they left the state and went somewhere else. They had one of the worst, at the time, doctor-to-citizen rates in the country. In 2003, that's when they became the tort reform state. A limit was placed on monetary damages for medical malpractice claims. Limits most malpractice claims to $250,000. Since the reform, thousands of doctors have relocated to Texas. The reform serves as a protection from claims where patients seek to recover excessively high amounts of money. So now these doctors, physicians, they're covered, and it gives them comfort in practicing in Texas. Obamacare and the tort reform. So Obama made it clear that he was not willing to consider capping malpractice judgments. And why is that? If it can save the healthcare industry so much money, why wouldn't he? Well, former Democratic National Committee Chairman Howard Dean, a medical doctor who served as governor of Vermont, said at a town hall meeting on Tuesday night that Democrats in Congress did not include tort reform in the health care bill because they were fearful of taking on the trial lawyers. This is the answer from a doctor and a politician, said Dean. According to experts, the healthcare industry would save us up to $40 billion, these laws would save the healthcare industry up to $40 billion a year and $400 billion over a decade. Now, here's why, according to Howard Dean, they would not. Here's why tort reform is not in the bill. When you go to pass a really enormous bill like that, the more stuff you put in, the more enemies you make. And the reason why tort reform is not in the bill is because the people who wrote it did not want to take on the trial lawyers, in addition to everybody else they were taking on. And that is the plain and simple truth. Now, that's the truth. I hope that you guys learned from my presentation on tort reform and kind of the general idea behind it and some of the things that helped drive Texas to become the tort reform state.